How's it going, everyone? So this is my new series called The Art of Motovlogging. So in this series is going to contain several different things. We're going to have what do you need to film correctly for motovlogging, what's going to give you the best experience, different tactics of angles, things of that nature, how to improve your audio, as well as some history. So there's been a long change over the course of time with motovlogging. Now I started motovlogging about 9 years ago, and then I stopped for 7 years. Now I'm back into it. But over that time, some of the OGs are still doing it. Some of the OGs have died off. Some new guys have came in. And a lot of the new guys, they're killing it. Just like all the new people in this generation, they're over the top in a good way. Like the new age skateboarders are doing things that back in my day, we couldn't have dreamed as being a possibility. As well as some of the bike riders. Like you've got people like Jigsaw that are just insane. Right? This series is going to kind of just be about all of that, but mostly to help you understand what you need to become a motovlogger. Now, right off the bat, you're going to need a camera. That's going to be the first thing. Now, using a phone is next to impossible. Not impossible, but pretty close. There are some mounts that will hold your phone to action camera mount, like a GoPro mount. That's almost become like the universal standard is using GoPro mounts. But the thing is that's a very flat surface pulling against the wind. So it's not really ideal. You're going to want an action camera. Now, back in the day, your options were really limited. There was GoPro, and there was GoPro. But now there are a lot of different brands and there's a lot of different types. You could come across an older GoPro like this GoPro Hero 6 for really cheap on Marketplace. Will it work? Yes. I mean, we made it work back in the day. The issue with things like these older GoPros is they don't support wireless mics. So what happens is you have a mic adapter that has to connect to the camera. You've got wires ran through to a Laviar mic that's inside the helmet. So you've got an adapter and then a wired mic coming off. And does it work? Yes. And it worked pretty well. So really the best options now are the newer cameras. So you're gonna need to cough up a little bit of dough for that. For instance, I'm using right now the Osmo Action 5 with a DJI mic. Now this gives me good audio wirelessly and a good image. I can get up to 4K 120 frames per second with this camera. Most of the new cameras give you a similar range of resolutions. So that's going to help you get that professional tier quality. The DJI products I tend to favor because of their super night mode that lets you record so when it starts getting dark outside, you can still motovlog, where back in the day, your older cameras like your GoPros and stuff, their sensors just couldn't do it. So basically you ended up with really grainy or completely unusable clips. So the DJI products have stepped into a new realm where you get some night footage. The newer GoPros are starting to improve. GoPro's kind of, in my opinion, fallen off as far as what cameras can do versus what they're willing to put into their cameras. The DJI products have set themselves up to be what I consider the best quality, but there's Insta360 too. Insta360, I haven't really used their action cameras to know much about, except for their 360 cam, which brings us into the next section. 360 cameras, like this Insta360 X5. Now what a 360 camera gives you is exactly that, a 360 range of view. And some people utilize these as their solo camera. I can't do that. I feel like they offer what you would need to be able to get it done. You can connect wireless mics to them. You can connect your motorcycle headset to them. You can connect almost any Bluetooth mic to it, with the factor that the audio quality sucks unless you get their dedicated Insta360 Mic Air, which the Mic Air does sound good. There's a trade-off with the 360 footage. So if you film in 360 mode, your 16:9 footage looks good, but nowhere near to the level that you're gonna get with the Action 5 Pro, the Action 6 Pro, some of the other dedicated action cameras. The 360 cameras are good for backup footage, for other angles, things like I was posting in this video just now, where you want an alternative look at what you're filming. And so for instance, I use mine mostly to mount behind my bike to give me almost like a follow me style look. So 360 cameras are almost a necessity for motovlogging, but they're not quite a necessity. They could be used as a primary camera, but I don't feel like they do that as good as your dedicated action cameras. They just can't get the resolution. They say they can, but it doesn't appear to me that they do. Now I've only had the Insta360 X5, so that doesn't mean the GoPro Max 2 might not be a competitor to an action camera. the DJI Osmo 360 might be a competitor. I know that the image looks better on the DJI, but I don't know if it's good enough that I would say it could replace my Action 5. So that's one thing that I'll stand my ground on, is I think there is no replacement when motovlogging to using a dedicated action camera like the Osmo Action 5, Osmo Action 6, GoPro Hero 13, or the Insta360 Ace. Now, I don't know anything about the Insta360 Ace. I'm just throwing it into the mix because my experience with the X5 was so good. I imagine that that camera is pretty good as well. Something else that might be considered a really beneficial thing to have in your armory is a drone. Now, drones can film some shots that you just can't get to with these other cameras. Now, your 360 cameras on some extremely extended pole mounts, like for instance, I have a carbon fiber pole mount that's like 10 foot long. I can get some shots that look like drone footage. At the end of the day, drones can get some really awesome cinematic shots that really can pop off your videos. I haven't utilized mine in that way in a very long time. I'm probably going to start doing that a little bit more. However, you got to pay attention to which drone you get, and that's about to change because potentially DJI's drones, which have been kind of the leader of the market, are possibly not going to be able to be sold in America anymore. So there are other competitors that offer very good quality. I only know DJI's because I've trusted them. They've been good to me. But keep in mind, even if DJI doesn't get banned, depending on the camera, is how usable it's going to be. For instance, this Mini 2 SE is not capable of tracking modes, so I can't set it if I'm on a wide open area. I can't set it to track me. There's apps like third-party apps like the Litchi app, which with some of them that don't offer features like that out of the box, it'll let them utilize their camera and stuff to do a tracking mode. This one isn't compatible, and don't get confused because I'm pretty sure when I bought it, I thought it would. Essentially, the Mini 2 worked with the Litchi app to do tracking, and the Mini SE worked with that app for tracking, but the Mini 2 SE did not. And I didn't kind of look into it far enough. So when I got this, I paid for that Litchi app and then found out really fast I couldn't do the follow me mode. But drones, as helpful as they are not a necessity when it comes to motovlogging. Most of your great motovloggers aren't even using drone footage. Now, a lot of the car YouTubers, they do use drones a lot. Car meets and things like that. Bike meets just don't seem to be nearly as popular. So now that we've talked about how to get the physical motovlogging footage that you're gonna wanna take, you gotta step into the audio. Now, audio is crucial. If you have poor audio, when someone clicks on your video, there's a good chance that they're gonna click away as soon as they hear a ton of wind noise, really staticky sounding, choppy sounding, things like that. And that's where I've noticed two brands in particular really standing out, and that's again DJI and the Insta360 Mic Air. Oh, did I have it upside down? I'm the worst about doing that. However, there's a little bit of trade-offs here. The DJI Mic 2 is substantially larger. It does fit in my helmet, but it somewhat presses against my face. This is much smaller, so I mean, it just snaps in there. You don't even know it's there. This also works as a start and stop remote. So if you do go with like an Insta360 Ace, this is a good option. If you get a DJI product, you're gonna wanna stick with DJI mics. It appears if you cross them without getting their little hub that connects the cameras, you're going to get audio quality that really suffers. If you get that little hub, you're adding additional equipment that's gonna be mounted to your face. Things to keep in mind when you're filming: the larger the camera, the more space and real estate that you're taking up on your face, the less of a good time that you're gonna have motovlogging, the less you're gonna wanna go out and film. When you've got all this equipment on, it takes away from your experience of the ride. And I've gotten used to it to where I almost feel weird not having my cameras. But when I first started, there was times where I just didn't bring my cameras because it was annoying, especially when the best way to do it used to be mounted off the side of your helmet. It'd stick on your jackets, everything else is very uncomfortable. Anyway, back onto microphones. There are some really good options for brands that just do mics, and I've seen different YouTubers use all sorts of different ones. There's Rode mics that have a wireless system and everything else. I have found my best experience has been sticking brand with brand. So if I'm using my Insta360 X5, I'm using my Insta360 mic. If I'm using my DJI Osmo Action 5, I'm using my DJI mic. So now that we've covered what you need to get to film, the next thing you're gonna wanna keep in mind is you've gotta edit that material somewhere. Now, a lot of people use computers. I have been editing on mobile devices for the last 10 years. I started editing on an iPad. That iPad became outdated at a certain point. I just didn't wanna spend the money for another iPad. So then I've been using my phone. Now, throughout time, because of this, I've been having to make sure that my phone is somewhat capable of editing. Like, I had a iPhone 6 for a long time, Because video footage, when you were editing, you weren't really doing a whole lot in 4K. 1080 was it, and your frames per second weren't very high. Cameras, now they're doing 4K. 4K is kind of becoming the standard. Your resolution can be up to like 120 frames a second, I'm pretty sure, on YouTube. So that is massive data. So when you're editing, whatever device you choose, like for instance, I'm using a 17 Pro Max with 1 terabyte of storage, and I've got like 70% of my storage filled up just in a month of motovlogging. Now I'm gonna clear out that footage. I don't just keep it on retainer. You just gotta keep in mind, you're gonna need a place to store this. I have found it easiest transferring and editing on a mobile device. So I've got friends that utilize computers to edit, and that eases up things a little bit with storage, because a lot of your computers have a minimum of like 1 terabyte of storage, and then there's all sorts of external hard drives, and there's things like that for your phones too. It's just easiest for me, being that I'm so comfortable editing on a mobile device, to just get a phone with a lot of storage and call it a day. But that's something to keep in mind, is you want to have a good enough phone that's going to be able to handle the processing of video editing, and it's not going to get all glitchy. It's not going to sit there and just overall struggle to do the job that I'm setting it up to do. Now, the last thing is to understand the history of motovlogging. And basically over time, you've had a lot of motovloggers that just pretty much had some cameras and they did some reviews. They might have done some rides and discussions with their friends, and then they've gotten to the point where it became really big to do like rebuilds and stuff and working on things in the garage. And then you've got some now that it seems like the big thing is to have discussions. A lot of them aren't even riding. They just come over, they sit near their bikes, and they just talk and hang out. And that's not really as much my thing. I really enjoy the aspect of riding. However, life, I have 2 kids. It's very hard for me to just hop on a bike and take off. Now, it wasn't hard on my dad. He hopped on a bike, took off, never came back. I'm not trying to be that way. So that requires me to be home a lot. It's one of those things, there are so much different avenues that you can go in and get your content, and being unique is the biggest thing. I've noticed that all the big YouTubers, none of them copy the next. They are very unique. Chase on 2 wheels, he's followed the more professional setup. So he's had different sponsorships. He built a really professional setting for a garage where he did wreck bike rebuild. He turned that into a business. Yami Noob did the same thing. I'm pretty sure he purchased an office and has like an office location. That's his business. Chase on 2 wheels might have done that. I'm not sure. Pretty sure that's still his home garage. And then you've got your motovloggers like Do It With Dan. Now he's on and off of being like a motovlogger. Sometimes I would consider him a motovlogger. Sometimes consider him just a YouTuber. Not that that's a bad thing. He has a fan base, and I mean, I follow along that fan base. I think his content is hilarious. And so that's the part that he's unique about. He doesn't use a filter. He just says what's on his mind. Then you've got people like Jigsaw that hide their identity for good reason, because they do a lot of, for one, really crazy driving that I don't recommend anybody try to copy, because it will end up getting you killed. And then you've got some people like Thou Taken. The biggest thing I can say is the motovloggers of the new generation, which is very few. It was an oversaturated market. It has cut down substantially. A lot of the motovloggers that were motovlogging have transformed their channels into other things. And a lot of the ones that still motovlog, they have done a lot of collaborations and things like that. That's something else to consider with your gear. Like the DJI mics, you can connect a couple mics. So if you're riding with a buddy, you could put a mic in your buddy's helmet and in yours, and you can record the whole conversation that you guys are having over your headsets. Pretty sure you can do the same thing with the Insta360s, and then with that kind of angle, you can get both people. So there's so many different ways to do it, and there's so much ability to be unique with how you do your content. So the biggest thing that I can say is find what works for you, and that's what you need to push through with. My channel, I have found what I think works for me. Now I need to improve my editing quality and stuff, and that's what this video is an example of, that improved edit quality, because I kind of put half my energy into my channel last year. I focused on my personal career, where now I'm focusing on this. So if you really want to become a motovlogger, these are some pretty basic things that you need to be able to do it. The type of content that you film at the end of the day is going to be the biggest aspect of what makes your channel do good or not so well. How do you talk to a camera? What are you going to do? What's around you? What kind of rides are you going to take? You don't have to be a street rider. You don't have to have a sport bike. There are Harley riders. There's people that ride Honda Goldwings. There's people that ride all sorts of different bikes. There's supermotos. There's people that fully do off-road vlogging. You can motovlog in any setting with 2 wheels. It's all about your personality and how you portray yourself on screen. So I hope this video has been helpful. I hope you guys had some takeaways from it. And if you would, please hit it with a like, subscribe to the channel. This is a whole series that I'm going to create called The Art of Motovlogging, and I'm going to go over a lot of this stuff into greater detail. I'm gonna go over particular items like my camera setup, how I use it, what settings I decide to set up on, like, say, my camera, and just altogether my equipment and what I use to motovlog. And that's going to be this whole series, The Art of Motovlogging. I hope you guys stick around to see it. Appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you on the next video.